Oh dear.
So throughout my life, it's a sort of challenges and fighting against forces, really. So.
But would you say that's a blessing in disguise? Because if you had remained in government and government is generally castigated, you'll be, part of that castigation.
It would have been, because all these things, all the frauds and all these things, we were not part of it. And I think also some of the forces that are in favor of maintaining the status quo, take what you want and do what you want with impunity, they were also fighting. So, for us, we thank God we had not been involved in all that.
So, the question I asked that led to, all that information that you just shared was how would a UDP government deal with inflation, aid dependency, and, debt.
No.
So, are you in effect saying, well, how the UDP would deal with this? I already started showing when I was in the Ministry of Finance.
It was paying dividends, and really.
Yeah, we all have this. The temperature swings. One day it's very hot, the next day it's cool and all of that.
You see, with inflation, it's not a one. Let's say.
One size fits all approach.
Solution. It's the entire economic management that will impact on the inflation. Like I said, your fiscal management, your currency, the less impact on your dalasi, that is devaluation of the dalasi, the more you have a chance of controlling inflation. The more loans you take, the higher you push up the commercial interest rates. Like today, if you want to borrow from the commercial banks, how much are they asking for? It's 18, 20, 21%. Go to other countries, it's around 8%. Yeah. So for a businessman here, the challenge is 10 times much higher than in other countries. So we are not providing the fiscal environment for business to thrive. So that's why sometimes you go to the courthouse, you see the banks taking a lot of mortgages to court, and people are losing their properties and guarantees. Because at 20, 21%, over a short time, it will
build up.
Almost double your loan.
Then you run out of
So unless it's just trading, you import wholesale, just sell immediately, and within a month or two you repay your loan. But like in agriculture, if I have to borrow at that rate, before your fruit tree starts producing, it's 2 years minimum, 3 years. Some will go like 5 years or so. So imagine the interest if that is to accumulate. I cannot pay the lot. So you'll tell the bank, come and take the garden. And you lose. So the environment that we are in is not helping business, the business sector capitalize, or new businesses even to acquire capital. And because you are borrowing a lot, the banks are comfortable to loan the government billions. Let me see our loan portfolio.
Oh, that should be very interesting. Get a lot of conversation around loans and
yes,
and how much that is not actual loans contracted by this current government.
Yes. Really, we were around $50 billion.
At the time when you were leaving government.
When we were leaving.
Yes.
Now, today, the last one was 129 billion.
Definitely more than twice the 50 billion.
More than twice.
Yeah.
And what would that do for the Gambia? You are saddled with that.
But there's an explanation as to why that would double over time. Because the loans were not contracted in dollars, they were contracted in euros, dollars.
But as I said,
yuan,
a lot of it is domestic borrowing.
Oh, you're talking about domestic borrowing. Okay.
Like for 2026, they plan to borrow 7.6 billion.
Dollars.
Domestic foreign borrowing is just 1.4 billion. In 2025, it was 5.7 billion domestic borrowing. Those are in dollars, and the foreign borrowing was 2.4 billion.
Okay, and you're saying when you were leaving office,
it was just 50.
Just 50 billion.
And we were bringing it down.
They are now thinking of borrowing what?
7.6 billion. So what are you telling the economy? We'll take all the money and use it in road construction or this bloated government budget expenditures. And then at the end of the day, what do you expect to come out of it? Gambia is at a stage where we need investments in productive ventures, in industries, in factories that will regenerate the economy and provide jobs and employment and income. But we are not seeing that. If you look at the budget, it's almost like entirely on overheads. So the future of the country, we say we depend on foreign investment, but is the environment, providing that kind of investment to move the economy upwards? No, I said no. So the loans have to be managed. You cannot just keep taking the loans. I'll tell you the comfort that they have, this government, and taking more loans, because they say loan to GDP is 78%, or is now less than the 129 it used to be when we were there. Why? There was a rebasing. GBOS, we had an expert statistician from Rwanda in GBOS who was rebasing, because the debt to GDP ratio was based on a figure, I don't remember, is it in the 70s or 80s figure, which excluded a lot of the informal sector. And Gambia, the informal sector is huge.
Yeah,
you talk about the Lumos.
It's the engine of the economy.
And the agricultural sector, the private businesses and so on. So we were going to bring this in and rebase this GDP. And that, when you increase it, brings the ratio down. But if you bring that ratio down, does that mean you have the capacity to repay more and more loans?
Does it mean that?
No. I think that's a serious mistake they are using. We have fiscal space, we are just 78%. From 50 you go to 150. And if you look at the interest rates, it's just too much. Interest on loans in government is going to, from foreign government, is 1.1 billion. On treasury bills, and on bonds, it's 5.7 billion. 5.7 billion can do a lot in your health sector or your education.
5.7 what? Billion what?
Dollars. So that comfort you think, because the figure has gone down, does not increase your earning capacity exponentially. No. We are tax-based. All right, the tax income is increasing, yes, but there is a threshold. If you go beyond a certain rate, you will have negative returns. Okay. People are going to say, look, we cannot pay more. Okay. And then you will have a lot of ways to beat the system and so on.
Okay. Monday the 13th of April 2026, you're with Coffee Time with Peter Gomez, and we are still with Amadou Sanneh, former finance minister, former trade minister, national treasurer. of the main opposition United Democratic Party. I'll definitely make this the final segment of our conversation.
No problem.
Let's go into politics. So here is Amadou Sanneh, who had brilliant ideas for the Gambia, was given the opportunity by Barrow at the start of his reign, and he started working on those brilliant ideas, but he was probably generations ahead of the administration, if you like, and the administration didn't understand. Eventually, he was ejected from government, and now he is trying to plot, the replacement of this government, so that he can continue the good work that he started, unfortunately, and wasn't given the opportunity. Do you have a roadmap? In other words, what's the strategy of the UDP to finally be voted into office in 2026, starting with the presidential, of course?
That's a big question. I think we are organizing ourselves, and UDP basically is a grassroots political party. And the first step is to broaden that base and talk to people for them to understand the vision that we have for this country. We've met, we've discussed, we've debated, we came out so 5-point agenda on health, education, agriculture, tourism. So we have a policy framework for all this, and I think the level of commitment that people have within the party that is for the Gambia, and not just to go into politics for a certain position or so. UDP is really different in the sense we have seen a lot of politicians waver. You move from this, you criticize the government, then you go and join them. That's happening. But we have been steadfast, one, from the beginning, to bring in democracy and rule of law into this country. And we fought, we paid dearly for it. A lot of my colleagues lost their lives. And today, I think that with all the other actors, we brought in democracy into this country. Still, not complete. You still have your Public Order Act. You still don't have a revised constitution. And our development agenda for this country, we think the trajectory of this government, if we continue as it is, the country really will not only collapse, it can bring civil unrest and crisis. We've seen it in other countries, much bigger than us and much more resources than us. Because sometimes when you think you can act with impunity and people are engaging and sitting, you think they are all powerless individually. But if a collective move comes up, you will know that the...
And who's acting with impunity? The police?
The government, government and the government apparatus sometimes,
How?
We have seen a lot of issues that come out and no real redress.
There are issues like that. We want an example of action with impunity.
Okay. Let's say this sector, one aspect of your segment, governance.
Yes.
Today, we can say this government is exercising excessive powers, like the appointment and removal of governors of central bank, auditor generals. Okay, the justice is among those that are protected in the Constitution. But thank God they have not interfered in those. But
appoints the Director General of Pura, appoints
yes,
the Ombudsman.
And the Ombudsman, yes, the appointments and but the removal.
IEC.
These are institutions that serve as nerve centers for the country. And they are not there for the government. They are there for the people, the country. Central bank is supposed to manage the financial landscape. Banking supervision, manage the foreign exchange, the currencies and so on. It's not supposed to be an institute where you interfere.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be, but if the path had been, cleared, created for, executive interference, that's a problem of the Constitution itself.
No, there is no part in that sense, because what it says is you cannot remove.
Let's take for instance
government.
When Bakari Jammeh was removed, we had all this noise.
Yes.
Yeah. He eventually, lost the job. We could even cite the problem, the case of the Auditor General. Were they not depending on constitutional?
Yes.
Exactly.
But
so it's the Constitution that is flawed, isn't it?
It's not flawed in the sense. The Act is clear. Central Bank Act 2018. I'll just quote for you.
Yeah, sure.
The President may only remove the governor or a deputy governor after appointing an independent tribunal. The chairperson of which shall be a person with judicial experience to investigate him or her and report to the President. There was no panel, there was nothing, because there are conditions laid down in the Act that you employ people, that we will employ you based on these conditions. And that is, these acts are derived from the Constitution.
Okay.
So they did not respect any of that. And because what this protection is, you have to show cause to say he has done wrong, or he is mentally ill,
okay,
or disabled.
Let's say the executive hasn't done this, but there are two other co-equals of power. You have the judiciary, you have the National Assembly. Couldn't they have said, look, this should not happen in a democracy?
People did protest. Whether they've done it...
No, the people did protest, but did we hear protest from the National Assembly, from the judiciary?
They should have had. But, I don't want to bring another issue, because my honest opinion, let me give you my honest opinion.
We're talking about
the National Assembly.
We're talking about a party that is, hoping to get into the government and,
yes,
institute a true democracy.
This is what we're saying. Let me give you my opinion.
Yeah.
The National Assembly currently, I would describe it just as an extension of the executive.
Oh, okay.
They approve anything that the executive brings. And the last budget, when you think that there was no debate to even review or criticize or critique the budget, they just passed it like that.
Is that for lack of capacity? Maybe you don't have enough people
I would
who
say
understand,
it's an extension of the executive, because majority there would say yes to everything that they...
Probably because they do not understand...
This is my view.
Probably because they do not understand the meaning behind some of the figures.
No, they
understand. They are just an extension of the executive.
Right.
Okay.
This is my view.
Okay. Fair enough.
Then you go to the Auditor General also. This is another protected institution. It's supposed to have independence. So public trust, integrity and professionalism. And not just to be kicked up and down. Because what they are looking at is the public resources, the coffers, for the entire country. So if the executive does something, and they don't want it to be checked up and returned, I have to change this. That's why these laws are there. And that act also is the same thing National Office Auditor is the same thing as the other. The Auditor General may only be removed from office by the President on the following grounds: inability to perform functions, misbehavior, incompetence. The President may remove the Auditor from office under paragraph A, subsection 4, following a report submitted by a properly constituted medical board. Then the other one is, you may remove the Auditor General from the office following a report from a tribunal, submitted by a tribunal appointed by the President. This tribunal
is that not a problem? If the President, who intends to sack Amadou Sanneh, is told by the Constitution or by the Act that you cannot sack Amadou Sanneh until you've appointed a tribunal, he just goes and brings in people who will say yes to him.
No, a judge.
And then they formalize
we assume the judges will be highly independent.
It's no
one of the judges. And then it's the judge of the High Court. We hope they will serve their integrity. The Ombudsman should also be here in this, and a member of the Public Services Commission.
Okay.
But what this shows you, these are checks and balances that exist in law.
Yeah, but not strong enough. And so when how would you strengthen?
We will pursue these acts, and we understand them. We know the reasons why they're there. It's a safeguard because we are giving all our money to the executive and the GLM, and these are some of the checks that exist for us to know that everything is intact and going fine. That will say, we are law-abiding, we'll follow the rules, we'll follow the law, we'll follow the Constitution. But these things are happening. What you said is true. The National Assembly has not done anything. The Minister of Justice should have advised the President that this is not law. But you can see that when CC went to court, they are arguing that it's lawful. But I don't see it lawful here. No matter how bad my English is to read this, to understand it, I don't think it's lawful.
And while we are on issues of democracy and whatever, you know, the Wolof says something, wow. We in the media are sitting on eggs, if you like, eggshells, given the regulations and I'm sure you've read about them somewhere. Where do you stand on this?
This is, it's like institutionalizing democracy. You know, it doesn't come one day, you know, and it's not one issue. The media, we know, is facing challenges. Madi was taken to custody under the Public Order Act. That act, we all say, is bad. Why is it still here? The will of the government to institutionalize democracy, remove all these constraints, all these new draconian media laws, simple things like incitement, or you have said something on your radio that is inciting the public. You know, those are loose. Yeah,
because the people who eventually, if these laws and regulations stand, who will decide what amounts to incitement wouldn't be professionals, huh? They would be people who are constituted by the government to say, well,
this is incitement.
When Peter was, interviewing Amadou, and he said that, he's in opposition and they are plotting the downfall.
That is incitement. No, it's ridiculous because really, we want a free and fair democratic process. The press freedom. For us, if we come UDP, we give it a guarantee that it will go to the maximum. Because if you slander somebody, there is a civil relief.
That's what we thought.
Yes, it's simple. Civil relief is there. In Jawara's time, the former minister went with a journalist.
Even Jawara took Sanamane ticks to court.
No matter he was president, but he didn't say, this is the law, I must lock you up. No.
Or I have the powers to lock you up, and then he just locked him up.
You allow the freedom of press. And, if you are in governance, you appreciate the role of the press. As we say, it's the fifth estate. It's also a guardian for the public to inform them what is happening. When something is bad, you obviously will criticize. But most of the people in power, they don't like being criticized. They just want praises and praises. And that's not possible.
I know we said we were going to, look at, the state of the economy, governance and all of that.
Yes.
But listen, it's an election year and we all know that, we are hearing a lot of things, and you as a politician, you are better placed to help us. The political rhetoric that is happening, in the lead up to the December elections.
Yes.
For some of us, it's scary. I mean, but for an active politician like yourself, I mean, is it acceptable? Should it be allowed just to continue?
Politics, it's a very...
Don't tell me dirty game.
Lively and exciting environment with different players. Some players are in for various reasons. I cannot say the reasons for others. But I think we are committed mainly for this country.
We, meaning UDP.
UDP. And we believe we have the tools and we have the commitment and the capacity to move this country in a positive trajectory. Because if we say development, it's not also one day. It is development is over a period. You will lay the foundation stones. You will put the country in a better shape. Then for whoever comes after, hopefully they will continue a development that will benefit this country. But all the noise, for me, I'm not bothered with the noise.
It's part of the game.
It's part of, you can never keep people quiet on issues and things like that. I think genuinely, if all the parties, we are all, since including ourselves, myself, UDP, we need to come on, because we are all seeing the same thing in this current government, that it is not good for this country. We can talk, we can come together for the benefit of the country. But that requires a lot of maturity, not looking inside, that I should be, no, you should not be. That one is the politics of self-appraisal. So you put yourself to a level above everybody else and so on. But that is something, I think, the position in this country, we have to rise above that, looking into self, and let's look at the country. We work together, we try to bring in the change. Because for me, going around and all the meetings, political activities, and generally, people are yearning for change. People are really yearning for
change, Amadou, for a very long time.
Yes.
It's 30 years this year
yes.
of the UDP.
Yes.
Now, you could say for all the time that Yahya Jammeh had been in power, you were suppressed and whatever.
Yes.
And people experimented with the UDP between 2017 and 2021. But why did the message not sink after you and your party leader and all the others were, pushed out of power? Why did the message that, we understand what it takes to move this country forward. We are willing, to do what it takes, to move this country forward. Yes. In fact, we have even started. You cited, things that you tried to implement and all the resistance you faced. Why is the message not sinking? with the Gambian electorate?
That's a very good question. Our electorate, it's not to downplay
their understanding
or intelligence, but the history of democracy in this country, like a phrase in Mandinka, Mansa Buka Soso, you don't oppose a government. A lot of people.
Yeah, my mother used to think like that.
A lot of people believe that, and they also say, you don't challenge a government. You are in the opposition, so you cannot challenge a government on this and so on. So to them, if you say Mansa, it means he is everything.
He's a king.
So you are trying to break a mindset. You are trying to break a system of how do I call it? I won't say oppression or indoctrination from colonial times, because when the colonialists were here, and it was true. The governors were everything. They decided. So, and then pre-colonial, our former kings and rulers were also very powerful warriors and so on.
But all this is before the advent of democracy.
This is what I'm saying. Democracy would come, but
the mindset is still,
people have to change. Okay. And what is the literacy rate in this country? The last time I read 37 or something percent, not even up to 50%.
So we still have 2 out of every 3 Gambians not being literate.
From my own experience, I've been going around, I stood for parliamentary 3 times on the Jamme. Going to people, some will even not welcome you in the public. Hey, if this president hears that you are here, he will come for us. Don't meet in our village. Some would refuse to meet.
That's happening to this day.
To this day, there are some places the alcalos have been empowered to that. They will try to say, but we know our rights.
Well, if alcalos are now getting an allowance, of course you expect them to dance to the tune of the government.
Yes. So for us, we know our rights. We'll go and do our meetings. Whether you come or you don't come, that's your choice. But we don't bow to their oppressors and so on. But they influence their communities. Like even these elections that we had, some of the alcalos, what they were using is, look, if the government candidate fails, we will be sacked from our position. So we will rally the family and the other villages, alcalos, support, please, you have to help. So we have a democracy, I agree, but I would say the maturity of our democracy is far less than what we see in Senegal even. Not to compare it even with Senegal. So we have a long way to go.
Some way to go still.
Yes.
Some way to go still. And just finally, how would you like to, bring the conversation to an end? We have about, 4.5 minutes?
Yes. I think Gambia, we are at a crossroads. And we should think it's beyond today and tomorrow. The country is more than just today and tomorrow. And most people would see, this is what we have today. Or tomorrow he is going to do this. But you're not sure what he's going to do.